What's up, beautiful people? Today we're taking a look at interactions between American Indians and Europeans. I've spent the last few videos talking about various European nations colonizing different parts of North America, but I hope you haven't forgotten that these various white people are rolling up on land that already has occupants. Interactions between Europeans and American Indian populations fostered both conflict and accommodation. Spanish, British, French, and Dutch colonies sometimes allied with and even armed American Indian groups. American Indian groups often sought alliances with Europeans against other American Indian groups. Y'all know the old saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And these same European colonies sometimes also fought with various Native American tribes. The British tended to have a much more antagonistic relationship with American Indian groups they encountered. Remember, British colonists came in greater numbers than the French or Spanish and established permanent settlements on American Indian land. This reality meant British colonists and American Indians fought over land, resources, and political boundaries. Examples of this conflict can be seen in METACOM'S War, or as the white man would say, King Philip's War. Same dude, he was the chief of the Wampanoag Indian people. This showdown would be in the New England region. In this event, tribes in the New England region formed alliances with one another, led by METACOM, to resist encroaching Puritan settlements and threats to American Indian sovereignty. A bunch of colonists were killed, but ultimately this American Indian resistance would be defeated, thereby opening the New England colonies to further settlement opportunities and removing from the colony any future serious threats to expansion from American Indians. Events such as Bacon's Rebellion were not only indicative of tension between colonial settlers on the frontier and the elite colonial leaders, but also conflict on the frontier between Native Americans versus former indentured servants and formerly enslaved people over land. There is a desire for land in the expanding Virginia colony, especially amongst former indentured servants and formerly enslaved people. It wasn't just in the British colonies in which Native Americans responded to European contact with violence and warfare. The Spanish will also catch American Indian resistance to their colonizing efforts in North America. As we've seen, the Pueblo Revolt in 1680 led to the death of a whole bunch of Spanish colonists, and since the Spanish did not come in as great of numbers as the English did in North America, when the Spanish returned to the Southwest region a little over a decade later, they were forced to accommodate some aspects of American Indian culture. Also different than the British colonies, the Spaniards were much more willing to seek to convert local indigenous people to Catholicism and integrate them into the Spanish colonial society. In the French and Dutch colonial settlements, both European powers set up trading forts to foster commerce between local tribes and local colonial settlements. Most often, it was the fur trade that was the main economic activity, but generally speaking, both the French and Dutch colonies coexisted with much less violence than the British colonies and the various tribes they came into contact with. In many cases, the French colonists formed alliances with tribes such as the Huron and Ottawa people, and these alliances served a purpose beyond just basic economics. The French arrived in far fewer numbers than the British, thus they relied on local indigenous people for protection from not only rival tribes, but also rival European powers. These alliances between the French and American Indian groups not only made them dollars, but it also made good sense. Another aspect of colonization of New France also included Jesuit missionaries, so like the Spanish, but on a much smaller scale, New France also sought to convert some native people. Despite the wide variety of ways that native people sought to respond to European colonial settlements, none of the European colonies treated Native American people as a sovereign people worthy of equal treatment to their European neighbors. And in our next video, I will examine slavery in the British colonies. Until next time, thank you so much for watching this Jocz Productions video. Have a beautiful day. Peace.